So this reflection today is focusing on the issue of forgiveness. It's not something that we're always that good at, but it's absolutely essential for our well-being. Disciple Peter asked Jesus one day, "How many times must I forgive?" And I guess he was searching for a sort of limit, saying after that I don't need to worry anymore. In those days the rabbis said you should forgive a person 3 times. I don't know what happened after that, whether you just wiped them or what. So Peter was being very magnanimous and said, "Should I forgive 7 times? That's twice the 3 plus 1. And Jesus said, "No, Peter, 70 times 7. He wasn't actually setting a number. He was saying, you just keep forgiving. Jesus then told them a story. I'm going to read the story. It comes from Matthew 18, 21 to 25. The kingdom of heaven is like a king who wanted to settle his accounts with his servants. As he began the settlement, a man who owed him 10,000 bags of gold was brought to him. Since he was not able to pay, the master ordered he and his wife and his children to be sold, all that he had, sold to repay the debt. The servant fell on his knees before him. "Be patient with me," he begged, "and I will pay back everything." The servant's master took pity on him. He cancelled the debt and let him go. But when the servant went out, he found one of his fellow servants who owed him 100 silver coins. He grabbed him and began to choke him. "Pay back what you owe me," he said. His fellow servant fell on his knees and begged him, "Be patient with me and I will repay you." But he refused. Instead, he went off and had the man thrown into prison until he could pay the debt. When the other servants saw what had happened, they were greatly distressed, and they went and told their master everything that had happened. Then the master called the servant in. "You wicked servant," he said, "I cancelled all the debt of yours because you begged me. Shouldn't you have mercy on your fellow servant just as I had on you?" In anger, the master handed him over to the jailer to be tortured until he should pay back what he owed. That's how my Heavenly Father will treat each of you unless you forgive a brother or sister from your heart. It's actually a very clever story, because when we hear the story, we immediately get enraged about that unforgiving servant. I mean, how could he have given a huge debt and then he goes out and demands a payment of a really quite paltry amount? So we're on the side of rage against that unforgiving servant. But then Jesus puts in a little verse which basically says, that's you. You are the unforgiving servant if you don't forgive your brother or sister. The fact is that in Jesus we have been forgiven so much. To hold unforgiveness against another person is just unthinkable. If we are holding onto unforgiveness, it shows us that we don't understand our own need of forgiveness by God. Because we fail God every day. We fail to honour him when we're living selfishly. We displease him when we're judgmental and unkind to other people. We disobey him when we're dishonest, or when we accept a standard that's not his standard. But despite all this, he sent Jesus into the world, and Jesus took that punishment that we all deserve. He took it so we don't have to. We simply have to seek to live his way. That's forgiveness. But it was a huge cost to God. It gave everything for us. How can we desire that forgiveness for ourselves and not offer forgiveness to others? Now, the other aspect of unforgiveness is that it makes a shipwreck of our relationships. If we don't forgive, resentment can build up, and that resentment can actually lead to quite physical illness sometimes. But forgiveness may not be easy. If it's just a small thing, we can say, oh, it doesn't matter. But if someone who's high on ice goes through a red light, speeds through and kills your family member, it's not easy to say, I forgive. And sometimes that act of forgiveness has to start as a choice, an act of will. I choose to forgive. Don't feel like it. I really want to punch their lights out. But in obedience to God, I choose to forgive. Now, the feelings won't change straight away. In fact, it might be a day-by-day thing. You have to stop yourself and say, no, I have chosen to forgive. Over time, those ill feelings will change. And hopefully they'll change to the point where actually you're able to show love towards that person who hurt you. If we're serious in working towards forgiveness, God's there and He works with us. He will heal our hurt. The other important thing about being able to forgive another person is it sets us free. The person who hurt you may not even care what they've done. We're the one who are hurting, and if we hang on to that hurt and resentment, then we're the one suffering, not the person who's done the wrong. So why should that be? To forgive the other person doesn't condone what they've done. They still have to pay for what they've done. In final judgment, they'll still have to face what they've done. So it doesn't condone it, but it sets us free. We may often hear people say, look, I'll forgive him, but I'll never forget what he's done to me. Well, it's not real forgiveness because it's continuing to hang on to something against that person. We may never forget the event, but if it's true forgiveness, the memory simply loses its pain and it doesn't have a hold on us any longer. In fact, it can actually become a strength that we use to help others. True forgiveness is seen at the cross. Jesus prayed forgiveness for those who were actually nailing him to the cross. Jesus knew that he could not die with resentment in his heart, so he forgave. It goes further than that when we realise that he was actually taking our punishment. We the ones who deserved to be there, not him. The incredible grace of God, that he should reach out to us in forgiveness. We need to extend that grace to others.
Be